Welcome everybody to the 45th Reinvention virtual chat. I know Eileen's rolling her eyes because I think she's been here from day one. It's pretty amazing. I just have to say that launching a book at the beginning of the pandemic was not exactly in my plans. This was definitely a reinvent your life moment. And thank you, there it is, reinvent your life. What are you waiting for? When you spend 10 years working on content about reinvention with the intention of actually putting a book out, you don't exactly make the plan to put it out the week that a global pandemic starts, let me just tell you. And as a marketer, that definitely was not in my plans. So I pivoted quickly and I created the Reinvention virtual chat series, which is my anecdote to book signing events. As you can see, I'm in a book signing space, the lounge this time for a salon event versus the bookstores. So I always have a different backdrop so that I feel like I'm in the bookstore. And I've just been able to host the most incredible conversations, share anecdotes and power tools for my book over the last 6 months, 5 months probably now. And I'm just thrilled to have you all here today. And more importantly, I'm thrilled to have Tammy as my guest. And we've got some background noise. So if you've got a little noise in your background, feel free to mute your line. I always like to start with a reading, and sometimes I share a power tool, but because Tammy and I have so much to talk about today, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start with a little reading, which I think is the perfect entree to our conversation. And then we're going to delve into it. So welcome everybody. Go ahead and mute your phones if they're not already, and we're going to get started. So today I'm reading from chapter 2. It's called The Aha Moment. And this particular subheading is called The Doors. Sometimes aha moments are symbolic. For me, doors symbolize a gateway to something different. These possibilities all stand just on the other side of that symbolic door, so close and yet so far away. Doors separate rooms, attitudes, experiences, and activities. They have their own distinct space, but an open door brings them together, blending the energy of two different rooms. As you step through the door, the new environment is usually in deep contrast to the other, retaining traces of the old, but promising the experience of a fresh start. The metaphor of a door captures the moment in time when we're on the threshold of a movement, a decision, or an opportunity. Everything we want seems to stand on the other side of that door. Today, let's try to unlock it. We stand in the familiar with a vision of what's on the other side. We can choose to walk through the door or stand in the frame until we're ready for something new. Or we can stand exactly where we are, looking at the door and longing for what's on the other side. These defining moments, whether small or large, are the doorways of your life. They offer either opportunity or confinement. The choice is always yours. When the doorways to reinvention are in front of me, I usually run through them, excited to approach what's next. What does a door represent for you? Pull out that notebook and think about those doors you've closed, those you are standing in front of, and those that you've walked through. Give great thought to the relevance of those moments when you were at a critical juncture in your life and the impact of those moments. I'm going to end my reading there because this is such an incredible way to introduce Tammy. Tammy has such an extraordinary background, has done so many different things in her life. Those of you who know her know what I'm talking about. Those who are just meeting her for the first time, you're in for a treat. I have to say before I go any further that if it weren't for Tammy, I may not be holding this book in my hand. Tammy introduced me to my extraordinary editor, who is her editor, Brooke White, who was going to be on this call, but just texted both of us from the side of a road where her car got stuck and couldn't make it to an internet, so she will not be on here, but I told her we'd be talking about her, and we will, because she is an incredible force who has done so much for both Tammy and I and help us birth our books and put so much into them. So before I go into a little more background about Tammy, I'm going to ask Lauren to help me, and we are going to pull up a video that kind of encapsulates Tammy's incredible book, From the C Student to the C-Suite. So let's roll the little video clip, and then we'll toggle back to Tammy and I, and we're going to start a great conversation. I don't know if we have volume. No volume.
Sorry, I was muted. Let me start over.
Okay, thanks.
We love imperfection. We'll find out about that.
My bad.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
And there she is. I love that, Tammy.
It still pumps me up, that video.
It's a great video. And if anybody's seen Tammy's social media that surrounds her book and the book launch, which was, I forget, what was the pub date for your book, Tammy? About a year and a half ago?
Oh God, no, it's been almost 4 years. I mean,
Oh my
I gotta reinvent again because, you know, I got to move on from C student to, you know, stranger in the room or something. I don't know.
Well, before we jump into our conversation, I'm going to give those of you who may not know all of Tammy's background just a little more insight. Firstly, Tammy loves to make people happy, whether that means giving a confidence boost, an introduction to that person they just can't seem to get to, or strategic counseling on a not yet fully baked idea. She is passionate about helping people succeed, and that is probably an understatement. She's the author of this incredible book, C Student to the C-Suite, and in just 3 days from launch, it became an Amazon bestseller and was ranked in the top 1% of sales on Amazon. From C Student to the C-Suite is a modern-day guide to business and relationships, and we're going to talk a lot about that today, so we'll come back to that. But she began her career in the entertainment industry as a talent agent, show creator, and executive producer, with development deals at NBC, HBO, 20th Century Fox. And during her time as an executive producer and creator of Super Agent, she discovered a white space for marketing to women through mainstream sports. The opportunity inspired Tammy to co-found the Female Fan Group. She segued into a successful career as the EVP of Aventa, a marketing services firm leading global business development, which led to a successful acquisition to Accenture. Shortly after, Tammy served as a chief brand officer at Plastic Bank, a social impact company turning waste into currency. Today, she's an LP and advisor with Halogen Ventures, a corporate advisor, executive coach, and motivational speaker. Tammy loves to mentor and promote opportunities for women, and we're definitely going to talk about that a little more today. In addition, she has a certificate of expertise from the University of Pennsylvania in positive psychology, with an emphasis in emotional intelligence, resilience skills, mental agility, and optimism. She's also lectured at UCLA in the marketing group, USC, and Loyola Marymount in their entrepreneurial classes. She lives right here in town, so I get to see her, well, not at the moment, but we get to see a lot of her otherwise. And Tammy and I got to just, let's share how we met, Tammy. Tammy and I met at a business conference, media marketing, one of our fabulous advertising industry conferences. And I don't know, I was wearing an Hermes belt, she was wearing an Hermes belt. So as women do, we bonded over our belts and fabulous fashion, and the rest is history, right?
It's actually, we more look like twins than even what we were actually.
Right.
We're both wearing khaki pants, a white shirt, a fancy belt, and
right.
Jewel.
fully twinning.
Completely
So
jewel.
we connected, we became fast friends. We had just a very similar sense of life, business, people, our way with people, our attitude about business, how to get things done. We just connected on so many levels. And she's kind of like become like a sister to me, and I just adore her. I've had the chance to meet some of her family and her amazing mom. And Tammy is just, you just heard all of this background about her. She's all that and then some. So, Tammy, we've got a lot of ground to cover. I'm going to jump right in. I've got questions. I'm going to probably prompt a few conversations that I think we really want to have that would be interesting. But I'd love to start with you telling us a little bit about what drove you to go from being an entrepreneur to working for a major company to going back to being an entrepreneur. I mean, you've had a lot of different career phases of your life, and those were reinvention moments. Those were pivoting moments. And it takes a lot to go through that. And there were probably moments of fear, moments of courage. Talk a little bit about some of those movements in your life and what it took for you to go through there and what you envisioned for yourself and why.
It's actually quite an easy answer to what happened. I'm going to put it a new way. I successfully failed. And a company that I had that was marketing to women through mainstream sports, and that's the basic of it. But it was a bigger, I had a very big idea with lots of big fans, rooting for the company and telling us it was going to be the next big thing. And when the company crashed along with 2008, I was out of business, basically. And I thought I was really out of business, me as a human being out of business. And, it was a really major struggle for me because as many of you in your career, we make our identity our business, right? It becomes like a definition of who we are. And that's just not the case. Why I felt like a failure, my friends and the people I meet, and, I call it my BFFs, my business friends forever, they looked at it like they were impressed that I had taken the chance. I had gone for it, because a lot of times we just aren't going for it and taking these really big chances. So I had completely a different interpretation of how I felt internally versus what they felt. And I didn't really have a choice. I had to go get a job. And the good news is, and something that will be a constant in this, I'm sure, conversation, is the importance of your relationships in life, right? So, there was a word that we used to use, which I think, I think everyone still can use it, but it's the Rolodex, right? Who are all your relationships in your, your contact list, your Instagram list, or your, your mailing list that you could go to and ask them for advice. There's a saying that says, ask for advice, get money twice. Ask for money, get advice. So, and if you can guess who that is, I'm sending you a book. If you know who said that, where that quote came from. Put it in the feed. You're getting a book. So, that's what I did. I started to ask people advice. I had no idea where I was going to land. And so interesting, because honestly, I was at such a low, and there's a few people on the screen that have had to scrape me off the floor at the time. And I didn't know my worth. Was I worth, I had a management company. I was a producer. I was, I had this company that was supposed to be the next big thing. Was I worth $50,000? Was someone going to pay me? Or was I worth $1 million and $1 million package to employ? That's a scary and feeling to have. I just didn't know. How's that?
So did you know that, did you have a vision for one day? Look, I've run a company for 32 years. I knew when I was probably 22 and I started my own jewelry business while I was in college, I knew that I never wanted to work for anybody else. I knew that I wanted to have my own company. So here I am in 2 weeks from now celebrating the 32nd anniversary of my company. I sort of always had that sense. And that kind of set the roadmap for me to always be kind of in charge of my own destiny. And I don't know where that came from, but it was just kind of this overly confident, completely ignorant, I'm just going to do it kind of attitude. And I just went for it. But did you have a sense of where you were going to be in 5 years, 10 years? Did you ever know?
Well, I don't know about 10 years. I was like, okay, what can I do that'll be funny and I don't have to follow any of the rules? That was pretty much how I started anything I ever did.
Right.
So, working in a company meant I had to follow the rules. But I will tell you a big tip when I decided to take a job at a corporate company. I mean, I came from the entertainment industry. Matter of fact, that's where I met Puna, and I can shout out to her. She ended up after the movie studio being a really good entrepreneur. She went and founded Hard Candy, and now she's the founder of Tokidoki. So, but that's where we met, and we became long-term friends. I even work with her today. So it, it just is, okay, back to the not following rules. But, even then it was fun. It was a little loose, right? It's the entertainment industry. The good news was when I did work for a larger company and we had, what happened is, if you have that entrepreneurial spirit, and I want to tell everyone, use an entrepreneurial spirit. How do you act as an entrepreneur and navigate in a corporate environment? Now that's what you want to be able to accomplish, because there's no one way to the top. It's like, who do I need to align with? Where do I need to take the risk? Who can, what door do I need to go through? There's no rules. There's no reason that if you go to a company, you can't ask the CEO to go to lunch. You almost need to write your rules when you get there. But if you can learn to navigate like an entrepreneur in a corporate environment, it's a great mentality. And I think not trying to be your biggest asset. I think you sometimes are a better salesperson or better because you're not only thinking of one way it was done, you're looking at other ways something can be done. So, and take that beginner's luck mentality, and you don't have that fear of no. So all these could be really positive things.
So you had moments in your career, definitely in the corporate environment, and stories that you share in your book from the C student to the C-suite, that might make a couple of people cringe at the thought of having been through that. I remember there's, dare I say, the underwear story, the Art Basel story. I mean, there are moments where you kind of leaned in to those, oh my God, horrific moments that happen in very corporate environments, where most people would kind of be completely mortified, and you might have been in the moment on one hand, but on the other, you kind of leaned into it. Do you want to share a couple of anecdotes? Because I think it says a lot about how you can take those moments and overcome some of those crazy fears that one has.
Well, I'll start with this. I think if you can have a sense of humor about yourself, and you can laugh about yourself. I mean, humor is a major survival skill. It's something I've used my whole life. I also have a very serious side, so I'm able to thread them. I had a good sense of humor, even about myself. I think that was one of my fall twos. I wasn't smart enough, but I can make people laugh, right? Everyone's got their crutches, and mine was something that actually helped me excel, my crutch. So I had a meeting at the time where there weren't as many outlets as there are today in the entertainment industry. There was Netflix, but there wasn't streaming. So there was ABC, CBS, HBO, Showtime, etc. And I had a TV show that was mentioned, and I had a meeting with the president of ABC. And to be honest, this is why building relationships and friendships that end up being forever. I used to hang out with this guy when we all couldn't even, barely pay our bills. And we were having, happy hours, right? And he ended up becoming the president of ABC. So getting the meeting was easy. I just asked. But it's still a big deal. I mean, his office is the size of my house, right? And you walk in and all these low couches. And I was the only girl in the room. Not uncommon in those days. Things are changing and they're awesome. But, tips to girls. You can own that room. Let me tell you. You be your smart selves, and you can get every single person wrapped around your pinky. Okay, so I was in there, and I sit down on this really, really low couches, and I teed off the pitch because I set up the meeting, and I was with my two studly business partners. They were like hot, hot, hot. So every guy had a crush on them because they were like sports dudes, you know, they were sports agents and the whole thing. And then the ABC guy. And this is literally what happened. I'm like acting it out. I wearing like gorgeous, like broad carpeting pants. I'm like dressed to the nines. But I lean forward with my legs kind of wide open, like, I got this, you know, taking up space. And I look down and my fly is like wide open. And I'm like, holy shit. And I'm frozen. I can't even go on. And they're looking at me like, what? I mean, Tammy can always talk. What's going on here? And I said, I can't go on. I'm going to have to fix this. And to make matters worse, it was laundry day. And I was wearing my Gap inspirational, aspirational underwear. And what was today's message? You are beautiful. Me and my beautiful crotch for the world to see. So I got up and said, I'm sorry, we all have a way to break the ice. And now my crotch is at eye level of everyone in the room. And I zip up my fly. And they're like, we laughed for half an hour. And the pitch went better than expected. We ended up bidding more. It did not end up going to them. But these are the things that bond you. And I know she brought up another one. I'll cut to the chase with it. But basically at Art Basel, I got food poisoning. And there's a much longer story. You can get it in the book. But there was no gift store at the hotel. It was a fiasco. I had to have the global CMO of the client we were entertaining with go get me Pepto-Bismol. It was a shit show, literally. Like, it was a disaster.
And if I remember, a major like global corporation, like not just a fly-by-night kind of brand. It was a big.
But here's the good news. We laughed about it. We had so much fun, and we all had fun. Forever, the guy that ran ABC, that will be his most memorable meeting. And forever, we will have that bond that I almost pooped my pants, right? We think that the things that are going to embarrass us could potentially be things that bond you. I have a gazillion of them, but those are two. And with perfection, everyone wants to be able to relate to you. We always feel so intimidated, but we all have the same issues. Like, people leave their fly open, and they also get stomach aches.
Well, I think I learned early on when I had to speak to big groups of people, and so many of us have heard this, you know, we all put our pants on one leg at a time, no matter who you're talking to. And, you know, I've had to walk into enough rooms with enough CEOs and enough celebrities and enough of these like very fancy people. But when you remind yourself of that, you know, they all have first class, you know, regular problems just like the rest of us, and they're just humans with other jobs. And I've walked around with the title of president for 32 years. So, you know, I've kind of been a big deal in my own mind. Maybe not to other people, but, you know, you just have to reframe it.
Yeah, I think it's the thing that I talk about a lot. I think if you could keep it real, and I mean, obviously you don't have to have these extreme things, but keep it real. If you don't know something, talk about it. I think some of my biggest moments when I failed, even in little moments, is because I wasn't keeping it real, number one. Number two, I wasn't honest about what I did, which is part of it. I wasn't honest about what I didn't know, and I was trying to fake it. You can ask questions. People trust you when you're just completely, you know, just honest. And there's more of a trust factor than just kind of talking out of this and hoping you're going to just get through the meeting instead of just saying,
Yeah.
I believe in this. I love what I'm doing. I don't have all the answers, but if you give me a shot or you give me the business, I will promise you can trust me. I'll be reliable. I'm going to give it my all, and I will find the people to deliver what I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, you know, we've talked a lot about mentoring and imposter syndrome and, you know, all of these things that we have to kind of like really understand where and how to utilize these things and these tools in our lives. I think those are important crossroads where we understand the power of asking someone to mentor you or being a mentor. And, you know, the imposter syndrome question kind of comes into that as well, because, you know, if I'm the president of the company for 32 years, I always want to pretend I'm the smartest person in the room. But if I do that, I am missing out on asking questions, learning more, learning how to listen. So I learned that very early on, that I can be both. And that's totally brilliant.
Well, you're a superstar if you can be both. I always say, you know, I mean, I always feel like I'm never the smartest person in the room, but I have the capable ability of being the most likable. So, and with the need of emotional intelligence and the soft skills that are so important today, everyone needs to really understand the importance of being caring, being empathetic, and in that pivoting kind of reinvention conversation is we're all pivoting at every level. I mean, if you have a company and things are changing, technology is changing, you got to make a quick decision. Or as your company gets bigger, how do you rely on other people when that's not the way you used to manage your business? But I do want to say something about imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Because it haunts me. And I'll start even with, because I know Cheryl was on the phone, but she might have got off because I wanted to tell her this.
Yeah.
Cheryl was, I'll say it anyway, just in case she listens to it. Cheryl was the one in Forbes that covered pivoting. And
well, let me just clarify. Cheryl just did a story about Tammy.
Oh, yeah, please.
In Forbes.
Thank you.
Therefore, you were talking about pivoting.
So she was on, and we'll let her know. But when she wanted to interview me at that moment, I'm like, is that Cheryl? Did she come back? No, it's Irene. When that moment came for the interview, COVID just hit. And things were changing, and potentially I was losing clients, and things were happening. I was feeling like not so good. And how do I do a story where I don't want to feel like a fake? So and she ended up doing it lovely because I came off humble and I came off genuine. And I was terrified about that because I wasn't feeling so good.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I hope every single person on this call gets imposter syndrome, because it means you're pushing yourself and you're taking chances. And 70% of successful people have imposter syndrome. So I'm rooting for every single one of you to have it and know that you could still be successful and work through it and still have these little demons behind you. Call your friends. They'll tell you how brilliant you are, because you are brilliant. Each one of you has a superpower. So, you know, it could be a very positive thing.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, I love what you say about people's superpowers and this need to be perfect or not to be perfect. And I think it's a really important conversation because we put way too much pressure on ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I didn't always know what my superpower was. It should have been obvious. That's the weird thing. And now I got asked the other day, what's your superpower? I'm all, building relationships. And that was like 2 words. And he's all, okay, I'm all, that's it. Yeah, which is rare for me to have 2-word answer.
Right.
But, first of all, if anyone's muted and they want to jump in or they have a question, like I want this to be interactive, or they have a concern or they're questioning themselves, let's tackle it right now.
Yeah, definitely. I wholeheartedly.
You know, I think we can all borrow, you know, even my superpower, because people don't need to give you anything now to build a relationship if it's in business. It's forever. I mean, someone's like, well, why did you have dinner with them? I'm all, I just want them I just want to know them. And I want to get to know them as a person. And I may just be friends with them, or down the line, we may be helping each other. But relationships and connections are a 2-way street, right?
Well, you love to do business with people that you have relationships with, even more importantly. So building up, you know, and I love that you use the word Rolodex, because I brag about my Rolodex with 14,000 people in it all the time. You know, it's my favorite word because it dates back to how long I've had relationships that are the joy of my life.
Okay, I don't know if I'm pointing at her on your screen, but I'm like, she's next to me, like, you know,
who's that?
Church family, you are. But
Oh.
She legitimately is a super connector, and we're so busy at events when we used to always be at events together that we rarely hung out because we were like super connecting all over the place.
Totally. Oh.
I think that everyone here should kind of consider what their superpowers is. And, you know, this is about reinvention. It's about taking chances. I see a few people on here that I know are in the midst of taking chances. It's going successfully. But it's, you can do anything you want if you sort of understand what you're doing. It doesn't matter what business you're in. That skill translates to anything.
So some people have a really hard time, Tammy, actually recognizing them. I mean, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we did a reinvention workshop on here and talked about getting other people to write your resume, looking at your LinkedIn profile, defining your own personal brand. Some people just don't necessarily see themselves the way perhaps they could, they should, and other people do. I always encourage people to hand your resume to a good friend, not necessarily a business colleague, but someone who really knows you. They're going to recognize things about yourself that you would not know. It's game changing when you do that because you recognize them beyond the scope of their industry or their core competency that they see themselves as, and it helps reframe them, right? So
I would definitely ask your closest friends. By the way, they're always telling you, right? They're usually telling you what your superpower is. You're usually ignoring it.
yeah. Well, that's a big, yeah. Are you really listening to that? Yeah.
It's usually right there. But it could be anything. Like mine's the relationships, right? So people trust me, they want to work with me. But I got to deliver something, so I need to find someone that has a superpower in operations, right? I need to be the whole package. So really understanding that, because if I go into an operation role, it's not my superpower. I guess you always, if you're in a small environment and your companies are small, you sort of figure out how to do it all. But wouldn't it be great if you always had the right seats in the right place, and then you're learning from each other and you're helping one another and you're bringing each other up? I mean, there was definitely when the company I vent at, which I knew nothing about this industry when I got the job, but I knew the guy that invested the money to make it happen. He goes, "You would be great." I didn't even know what I was selling. But it was almost better because once I understood the proposition, it was so complicated the way they were saying it. I'm like, if you're selling to the chief marketing officer, it's just an example.
Yeah.
They're not in the thick of where they were in digital today. But how can I simplify the offering? So it ended up working out really well. If I could sell TV shows, I could sell something to a creative chief marketing officer.
Right.
But
it's funny, I often say, and having hired so many people over the years as I have with my company, that you cannot teach people to be who they are. You can teach them what they need to do at the company. But when I interview people, I've read their resume, it's what got them in the door. But now I want to talk to you. I want to know who you are. I want to know your energy. I want to know not what your answer is, but how you answer a question. It says so much more because you could probably then take, once you understood the core business, you could take all that personality and all that sensibility and apply it in your own way to make people connect with you when you spoke, right?
I think your own way is correct. The good news is today we can learn some of the soft skills. I was just on a webinar earlier with the Beyond Barrier girls that are there on my screen. You can shout out, put your information in the box. Monica, but we can learn how to best do our soft skills. But what you were saying on the other side is, if we don't keep it real and gives you our version, then we're not, it's not going to be as successful. We have to be comfortable in our own skin. So how do we expand what we do and learn how to be more of something, but still keep true to ourselves? But I think, I think there could be a learning curve on the EQ side for sure.
Right. Well, and if we want to kind of understand how to take that sort of bird's eye view of ourselves as we're looking at reinvention, and we're looking at pivoting, and we're looking at milestones in our lives, we talked about this, is it, what would it be like if you wrote your own obituary? What do you want it to look like?
I had a really weird quote take off on the internet. It's so weird. I'm like, if you ever do social media posts, don't you look for other posts, because you can't come up with every quote. Come on, we're only one person. So I go to those, wise heroes kind of websites, and I'm looking for posts to quote, and I see mine. I'm like, what? And it's like got different backgrounds and the whole thing. But basically it was like, seriously, write your own obituary and live that life. And it's not necessarily about money. It's how you want people to view you, that you are a loving person, you cared about everyone, you were funny, or everyone's different. This is not like what mine doesn't go. How do you want to live your life? That's what success should look like. And right now, I mean, during COVID, the silver lining for me was like, holy moly, my own little reinvention on what's important and what success looks like, because I, for many reasons, had this interpretation that being successful financially was me being successful. And a gift from a number of the people on the phone. I worked with Irene. She's a relationship coach. I read one of the books that was for me was, besides was the Viktor Frankl book,
cold water.
Surviving During Difficult Times, right?
Sparkling water.
Meaning to life, meaning of life. But I really realized I learned a lot about who I was during this time, and I'm really happy with who I am.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. So at what point did you decide to write this incredible book? I mean, what was the catalyst? I know my catalyst moment, but I want to talk about your catalyst moment. What did you always think, gee, one day I'm going to write a book? Or was there some aha moment for you where it was like, there's a book here?
Yeah, I came from the entertainment industry, right? Television. So I thought there's got to be okay, let me back up. My partner, my two-man punch, the guy that was actually going to deliver the goods after I brought in the Rainmaker portion, he delivered the goods, and we were off and running, the two-man punch guy, who ended up being like my brother in business. And I always sold him first before the product. I'm like, you are going to love Jamie. I sell people first, because you have to have the product that's going to deliver. That's a given. So who's your team? Who surrounds you? So anyway, we had a lot of success together, and a lot of fun, a lot of bumpy roads, a lot of hilarious stories. He was sort of my Ethel. And he said, you need to write a book. I don't think you can, how you get in the room and how you make things happen and how you change the energy. Because I would walk into a really corporate boardroom and I'm like, hi, and and I would set the tone for how the meeting should go. Because what we do is we go in and we're like, really, we're trying to emulate them. Well, why don't you set the tone and emulate how the meeting's going to go instead of letting them set the tone for the meeting? So he said, you should write a book. And then coming from the entertainment industry, I thought, ooh, this would be super. I can write a book that's like never been done before, that comes from a funny place. But when I started writing it, it was about everything I did great. And I was like, this is so boring. I mean, I'm bored. Like, this is not appealing. What about all the shit I'm hiding under, what I'm scooting under the bed, all my skeletons, all my stuff, all my shit and my insecurities? What if I shared that? Because hypothetically, I do get a little fame or whatever happens to the book, I don't know. What if I get found out? What if I just come clean? I just need to come clean. And then the book just sort of took a life of its own, and I'm proud of it. I thought I ruined my life being so honest, but it's worked out.
Well, it's, the anecdotes in it are hysterical and clever and poignant, and the wisdom that comes out of it. And you have an incredible social media campaign that accompanies it with a lot of your quotes and your quips. But it's also given you a platform to talk to a lot of people and to create a new conversation around who you are and your perspective, which is so fresh and so real and so authentic. And I think anybody, it doesn't matter whether you're playing in big corporate America space or you're an entrepreneur. I mean, look, you're working with all these incredible startups. These lessons must translate in such extraordinary ways to how to get an investor, how to build a brand. I mean, you're dealing with a lot of different kind of rooms, right? So,
absolutely, but these are skills that, anyone can do, and they don't need to be perfect. Just try. I mean, like we said, some of my biggest hiccups or even my biggest mistakes had led me to something else. I think just getting ahead, understanding our fear is normal. I'm usually more concerned if you're not scared. I'm like, why wouldn't you be scared? You're taking a chance. You should be scared. It is a risk. It feels your feelings are valid. That's what happens. I think that opening up the doors, I think the book was good because it lets people know they don't need to be perfect to be successful. And that includes the CEO that's like lonely at the top and that they're always questioning themselves. And, you know,
Right.
when you're seeing someone else do that, it gives you a lot of emotional freedom to say, thank God I don't have to do
And
that.
wouldn't you say right now is we're in the midst of COVID and we're seeing CEOs and CMOs and all these big important people we're talking to in their homes where the kids are jumping in their lap and the dog's running around and barking in the background and they can't control the moment. We're also seeing another side of people that is more real, more human, more vulnerable, right?
And I'm sure it's a weight, you know, as much as everyone has a weight on them right now of like succeeding during COVID, there's also the weight lifted off of like, I don't need to be perfect. I can make a change right now and everyone's going to be go, go, go and supportive. And now's the time to be your most authentic, real self and really get what you want because everyone's going to be open. Our hearts are open and they're bleeding and we want to help one another. And if this is something that I was thinking about the other day, if you lead with your heart, you cannot go wrong in anything.
Yeah. So Irene has a question for us. She wants to know, where did it go? She asked about, hang on, I've just disappeared, speaking in front of audiences. And I just saw it a second ago. Here we go. Tell us how you gain confidence speaking in large groups.
She's such a brat. She knows that I like Yes, I know what she's doing. She's giving me shit, which I love. Anyone gives me shit, you get extra points. Come on, bring it on, guys. I tell her I take a quarter of a Xanax, have a glass of wine, and get on stage.
Awesome. I think we know a few people that do that, actually.
So, it's listen, you can breathe. You know, someone corrected me, like, why don't you just breathe? I think I'm going to breathe myself right into a panic attack. So forget it.
That's funny.
And I think once you relax and you're up there, I would say one thing I do when I usually public speak is I ice break it. I usually make fun of myself. I usually don't have to. Something inevitably happens when I walk on stage where I already have my foot in my mouth. And then I get to make fun of myself and everyone's like, go Tammy. They don't even give a shit what I say. They are Team Tammy. You guys, if you're vulnerable and you're honest and you're imperfect and you just tell it like it is. You can even be the most basic, like, honestly, I'm nervous just because I want you guys to get everything. And this is what I said at Mattel. I said, I'm going to be honest, I'm nervous. There's 500 women. I want you guys and Mattel, which Mattel gets you other jobs, right? I want you guys to get something out of this, and inevitably I'm going to fuck up my talk. And they just all started laughing. Right. And of course I had tips and takeaways. So I was going to give them stuff to walk away with. Yeah. But inevitably I was going to screw it up, but then it took all the pressure off because when I did screw it up or I missed something, I just got to say, I told you, and fix it.
So Mia's asking a question of which I can answer part of. She asked,
be together. If you're courage enough.
Mia, unmute your mic. She's not a mom, but take the rest of your question from there.
People call me mama. I just call one of my best friends mama.
I mean, she's got the most incredible nieces and nephews and godchildren.
I had a little sponsored daughter in Cambodia, but I am a mom. I feel like I'm so mothering.
She's definitely the nurturing mama type.
Yeah, I'm a mama, and just not the traditional mama.
There's all different kinds, right?
Right.
Okay, so my question was that I'm actually writing a parenting book, and so it's actually a book that I started because I did a podcast for UCLA Anderson, because when I went to business school, I was a working mom with 4 kids, and people kept saying, how'd you do it? How'd you do it? So I finally did a podcast for them, and then I thought, oh, maybe I should just make a little pamphlet, and that they can give it to their students they're trying to recruit moms to go to business school. And then long story short, now, of course, it's morphed more into a parenting book because it's a bigger audience. So in line with your thought about being humorous and funny and with work. And so I just wondered I'm going to have to get your book because I'm going to have to pull a quote out and I want to include it. But that's what I was just wondering, if you were a mom officially or doesn't matter, because I know that there's wisdom that you have that I can include, because like you, I'm more the serious person. But when I get up on stage, people tell me I'm very funny. So I'm trying to make sure to inject humor into the book.
Be it. I mean, writing humor is a little hard. So have your friends that are editors to make sure you're hitting the right beat. You're not becoming off offensive. I like, what? How would you be offended by that? You know, but you go for it and then just have other people read it, because there's a rhythm with humor is all I would say. And definitely add it in. I think it's a comic relief. I think people so enjoy it. It just takes because I know it's back to the death thing, but do you ever, like, there's serious stuff, but do you notice at funerals that when people tell the funny stories, that we need humor in our lives, and it makes things a lot more manageable if you're dealing with serious subjects, and you can add some humor in it. So I encourage it, but just have your friends that are your editors kind of look at it so it's not offensive.
Yeah.
Sure. Sounds good.
I'm going to call out Dan Miller because he's the only guy in the room today.
Hi, Dan.
Dan, you're usually not the only guy in the room. We actually have, I could give you a list of names of the guys that are usually here. So I find it really amusing that you are the only guy here today.
Happy to be it.
I love it. And Dan and I go way back. He's actually my commercial real estate agent. He's the guy that has found me my last 3 office spaces, right? 3, I think.
Yeah.
And a dear friend based here in LA. So it's really fun to have you here. And, you know, I feel like, it's cool for you to be the only guy in the room. So
I was intrigued.
you were
Thank
intrigued.
you.
Question.
Listen, all my shit comes out. How am I doing? Dan?
You're doing great. The title is what attracted me to this webinar, Zoom webinar. So it was very good.
Oh, good. I'm so
My
glad.
question was, I was in the midst of typing it when Kathy wanted me to come on and say something. Did you articulate a mission statement? Did you write it down, your personal mission statement about where you wanted to go from where you were to where you are now, like physically writing it down and following it?
I would say I did not, but the book forced me to kind of find clarity. And I actually am finding more clarity coaching other people today, even with myself. I know that's, you almost become your self-coach when you start coaching people. And it's been an amazing experience because I advise companies and I advise CEOs, right? But to really say we're going to focus on the coaching portion, God, it's amazing. I end up self-coaching. It's really a gift. But I will say that the book just sort of, I was kind of like, I wouldn't recommend my way necessarily. But I think it's a great idea. I think, writing it down and being able to hit that goal or people you want to meet, I would definitely do that. I love accountability today. I tell people, make sure I do this, make sure I do that. And I know you talk about that, Kathy, but
yeah.
And I tell everyone to hold me accountable. And with the book, I tend to tell people, if I want to do something really large, like my second book or whatever I'm working on, my trick is to tell people I'm going to do it. So I don't look like an asshole when I don't. But you won't be an asshole if you don't, because you could change your mind and whatever, but that's my way.
So if I may, we've got another question here from Joytsna. Am I pronouncing that correctly? It says hi, and I don't know if you want to unmute your phone.
You can call me Joe.
There you are. How do you pronounce your name?
Jyotsna.
Joytsna. Okay, would you like to ask Tammy directly?
Yeah, sure. So, I changed jobs recently, not recently, like a year and a half ago. But if you count my years of experience, it's still very less. I'm still considered very early in my career. I was previously in virtual reality. So when I was in that industry, I was pretty active in the industry, and I used to get called for student panels and intern panels or etc. And I used to love that, but now I moved jobs due to certain situation, and I'm finding myself more in the data analysis space and also more into technology consulting. But because of this shift, I kind of I'm in a new space where I want to get back to a place where I still feel relevant in the new workspace, or in the field I'm in, but I don't know where to start from. So I want to know how to get back to being a panelist or a speaker, uh, because that only like kind of proves that you are a subject matter expert or something like
Okay, first of all, I'm so proud of you for
you.
wanting to push yourself out there in a new territory and actually do the thought leadership, because that is going to help you. It's also going to help you with your confidence in your own company to take more risks, because just as a general statement for women, we tend to, when we take a new job, put our head down until it's perfect. And then we'll be like, okay, it's perfect. Well, you know, we never feel like something's perfect, right? And oftentimes, bravo to the men, they're simultaneously networking and seeing who they need to meet. And there's steps we need to take to get up the food chain. So I'm just, for starters, I'm super proud that you want to do that. What I would do is look at industry organizations on like even LinkedIn and join some groups and just contact. Right now, everyone needs people to be on panels because people are definitely doing content. And just say that this is my expertise. I'm not looking, it doesn't sound like you're looking for money, you're looking for credibility. And just say, I'm here to offer my expertise. I would call also maybe some early stage startup accelerators and offer that you could be a mentor to some of their companies that are struggling with data, et cetera, and start mentoring. And then they're going to have you be on the panels. They'll 100% have you be on the panels. So I would just start joining groups and just email them and saying, I would love the opportunity to help put on panels. And I think that's for everyone, because thought leadership is definitely something that I think helps you internally feel more confident, number one. Number two, also perception. People are gonna find, they're gonna find more value.
Cool, thank you so much.
Oh, that's wonderful. No, great question. A lot of people are really thinking a lot about how to sort of, you know, reinvent all parts of their lives, whether or not they like it right now. But it's giving us the space, and that is a gift, no matter how you look at it. It is such a gift to be able to have the time in our lives and what I call these like hair on fire days and nights that just are endless. That this has given us a moment to pause, and whether we're still pausing or we're on the other side of the pause, you know, we have to really appreciate what a gift this has been, because, you know, I kept saying in the beginning, it felt like, you remember that feeling on Christmas Eve or Christmas where it felt like the entire world had kind of shut down. I remember being pregnant. I was probably, let's see, I would have been about, I don't know, 6 months pregnant maybe. And I was having that total pregnancy craving, and it was Christmas Eve, and all I wanted was a chicken pot pie. And there wasn't a place in town that was open on Christmas Eve where I could get a chicken pot pie. And I think I drove my husband crazy, but I don't know why. I just kind of out of nowhere had this craving. That feeling of everybody had shut down. And so you just didn't have a choice but to just be and to be present. And yeah, we've kind of had the drawn out version of that. But it's also been an incredible gift, because nobody hands you that and says, take a breather and just listen to yourself.
Yeah.
Question what you're doing, where you're at, what you want, what are those doors you might want to walk through, right? And now's the time.
I mean, I'm seeing Jeannie, I'm seeing Holly come back. I was thinking about you earlier, but now I was thinking about Jeannie, which she's not in the screen, but you know, I remember she took, you know, she's growing a group right now, and it's fresh. She took a moment where she felt very depleted, and she used it as an angle to grow a group called Fresh Out of Plans. Like, what the fuck happens when you're fresh out of plans? So she used her humor, and she used this state of mind that she was in, and, you know, she's building a community. And I'm sure she's gonna kill it with what's next in this community. And it was part of her angle as, you know, she's a coach as well, that are is very specialty for people that have abused alcohol, etc. She works with a lot of the centers, but she used a moment of how she felt inside and made it a little bit of a movement. And we've got Holly, who loves helping coaches, and you know, built a Hope, Love, and Summit where she had all, you know, congregated these coaches and really was like, how can I introduce all these different coaches that can help, you know, each different kind of coaching for different kinds of people. And she took her love for coaching and learning all the skill sets, but is now doing discovery coaching, helping people book, you know, their talent as well. But it's there, yeah. I see a lot of good reinvention here.
So before I end with one of my fabulous quotes, I know Betty White is one of our favorites. You want to share one of her fabulous quotes?
I have so many. And I have, you know, Mickey's always sending me Betty White quotes because of my obsession. I should have brought my granny panties. I actually have panties that have Betty White on them. There's magnets on my wall. That's the new underwear I'm going to have in a meeting.
I love it. Yeah, in the next meeting. Exactly.
Which will lead to a great quote about, Dan, you'll love it anyway. All the men love this quote. But, you know, with my new crotch, Betty White quote, but she says, why do people say grow some balls? Balls are weak and sensitive. You want to get tough, you grow a vagina. Now that thing takes a pounding. So that's one of them. I have one of, you know, aging is amazing unless you're a banana. You know, I mean, I could do this all day long. I mean, I literally could just do Betty White. I was Betty White I wish I had a photo. I do have a photo, but I was Betty White for Halloween.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. That's great. Well, she's amazing. You're amazing. You and, you know, you and Betty, you're both incredible women.
She's an icon. That's for sure.
Tammy, I want to thank you for being on here today. I know we could talk for hours and hours, and I feel like, you know, your friends, my friends, those who have joined us, and those who will get to listen to this over, it'll be on our Reinvention Exchange website with all of our virtual chats. We're launching a YouTube channel that's going to have everything on it. We're going to have this on Facebook Live for people that want to replay it. And I've put your URL, Lauren has put into the chat. So if anybody wants to look at everything that Tammy is doing, both in her business, investment, women's funds, all the incredible things that she's contributing to and involved in, to buy her book, which I 1000%, I know I've got a book, but let me tell you, Tammy's book is a page turner. It is fun. It is irreverent. It is everything Tammy is. And her website, you can get all the info there to buy the book. It's just such a joy. I think Tammy and I are going to take our show on the road. we're gonna do like a regular gig. We're like the yin and yang of motivation and inspiration and living our best life. And so, you know, we're going to be out there again soon, but until then, we'll do it virtually. I'm going to take us out with just a brief little ditty before we sign off. As you dig to unearth the answers to these questions, a word to the wise: be open to what you may find. Do your best to let go of old expectations and ideas of success and worth and happiness. You must be open-minded for new doors to reveal themselves, or just go open them yourself and see what lies before you.